All right, we are live. Hi, I am Christy Farr and doing my first live experience with Queen Wheeler, which is amazing that we're going to just not know each other and show up and have a conversation that we have declared already will be hard. That feels super brave and exciting. I'm going to take a moment to just share this in 2 other places so that I know everybody sees it. And now I'm laughing because I'm like, do I know how to do that? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Do you have anywhere special that you wanted me to put it?
I put it on my page already, and I put it in my group. So
okay,
we're good.
Wonderful. All right,
yep.
Good.
We're good.
All right, we're good. We're good. Okay, well, then we are off to the races. So, I wanted to just give a little background, and then I wondered if you might be open to us doing a little Q&A since we don't know each other, and I just had some questions that I thought might be fun because we have some weird similarities. Does that feel like an okay place to start?
I guess.
All right, and then we'll dive in. Okay. So
we'll just see.
Yeah, we are. We're going to see. So I know that you're a life coach because I've listened. Okay, so you did a series of hard conversations with Amy. What's Amy's last name?
Landholt.
Okay, and then with Leah. And those are available on hardconversations.live, right?
Yes.
And this one will be there as well, yes? Okay. And you have a 4-year relationship with Amy and a 1-year-ish relationship with Leah.
I think me and Amy might be 5 now.
Okay.
Yeah, me and Amy are 5, and me and Leah is 1.
Okay. And so we met literally 10 minutes ago before we signed on. I know that from listening to the previous series that you are a life coach and that you do that full time. I'm also a life coach and I do this full time. How long have you been a life coach?
It's been full time. I just went full time about a year ago. Part time for about all of my life.
No. Yeah, right.
But in the arena of coaching, it's been about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I've been doing this full time 11 years.
As far as under an industry, the interesting thing about life coaching. One, I only use that because that's what I fall into. Like that's the umbrella, the label that I fall up under, right? It's not one that I embraced wholeheartedly because I just wish I could figure out another name. Like something magical, right? Mm-hmm. something magical. But that's what I'm left with is life coach, which I don't mind that term. I think it can be a little misleading because it's so vague.
Right.
It's so vague. And people do this work so different than each other. And it's easy for people to think one way about that title of life coach. But there's so many different arenas. And I think me and you are both spiritual people. So I would probably guess we probably work similar to each other.
Yes. I imagine so. And I was, so I took my training 11 years ago, but soon thereafter started kind of doing more of my own thing. And so I quit calling myself a life coach for a long time. Mm-hmm. I finally named my business The Unruly Woman like 6-ish years ago. And so that really solved a lot of things for me because I didn't have to have a title anymore. And I just went by The Unruly Woman. And that kind of captured how I'm not like the others.
Right.
And then I kind of came back around because it just, it's just a lot of people know what life coaches are now. And so I tell people like, I'm not a regular life coach, but like I'm in that ballpark, it's like in that arena.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really don't even like saying what I do here. I'm one of those people who go, let me do it. And you tell me what I do.
Right. That's exactly what I do. I'm like, you just call me.
You tell me what value it brought to you. You tell me what it did for you, and you label me, right? Because that's what it's dependent on. But yeah.
I've had people call me a guru. I'm like, nope, not that. I have people tell me, they call me my therapist or my counselor, and I'm like, not a therapist, not a counselor. So I'm always having to pull people back from using those labels because, you know, that
I
matters to
quickly
me.
say that. I'd be like, no, that ain't.
Nope, not that. Nope. But we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, and we'll make it feel better. But yeah, what I do is still kind of mysterious. When you said you were looking for something kind of magical, and I thought, what's more magical than Queen Wheeler? Like,
girl, I don't know.
Like that name, and it like
right,
it like brings something. So
right.
I don't know. Maybe you just go with that. What do you do? I'm Queen Wheeler.
Actually, yeah, that's pretty much what I.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Who
idea.
Are you, Queen? Because at the end of the day, that's who I am, and that's all I am, right? And that's enough. That's who I am. That's all I am, and that's enough. I am not one that has a whole bunch of alphabet behind my name. I'm not one that can have a lot of accolades or anything like that. However, I am one who has been rooted and grounded in this human experience. I have been rooted and grounded in my personal experience, right? And how it connects to others, and how it connects to life, and how it connects to deity, and how it connects to self. That I know, and I know very well. And because I know that, then I know a lot of things, right? Because in the discovery of that, it caused me to have to connect to so many things, to study so many things, right? To listen to so many things, to come to an understanding of so many things, all to come to the understanding of my own knowing. Right. And so that allows me then to connect to people, many different types of people from different walks and different experiences. It allows me to connect to them in a much deeper way than many do. Right. Everybody is not able to do that. And not everybody is afforded like our talks around racism and around the institution of it, like it is relevant even in this work, and what I'm talking about with this work, because not everybody is afforded the opportunity to study, to dig deep, to expand. Right? I am often I've often told people how, like, I would love to talk about metaphysics and how the mind works, and how, like, I love that spirituality. Like, I love that stuff. Like, I cut my teeth on that stuff, right? Years and years of study and practice and all of that. I would love to be the woo-woo person that, like, be going in on that. And every now and then I get to talk about it a little bit. I love philosophy. I love to talk philosophy. I love human science. I love all of that. Would love to talk about all of that, right? But then I have to grapple with this thing called racism and its effects in this world. Yeah. And so when I want to get all up there, right, and fly high, as I call it, because I love flying high. Right. Fly high, I am grounded quickly when I think about the woman who's standing in the inner city, who just got home from work, just in time enough in the morning to get her children up, get them fed, get them dressed, off to school so that she can go to her second job, to get home in time enough to cook dinner for her latchkey kids and get it on the table and sleep for a couple hours before she has to get up and do it all over again. That she's not, she doesn't have the privilege of, you know, studying and being grounded and woo woo and all of that, right? Because she worries about when her child walks out the door, if the child turns to the right, the child might run into the drug dealer. Child turns to the left, might run into the prostitute. Child goes straight ahead, might run into the cop, right? So that grounds me and reminds me that it doesn't matter. My name is Queen. All other things, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
I am who I am. And it's my responsibility to do what I can do, right? To affect and bring change in some kind of way. And first and foremost, within myself.
Right.
Right? So that I can create an atmosphere in which this change can happen all around me with other people, and to aid in that in any way, so that that woman that's trying to get a couple hours of sleep, like, she can't afford to be out here talking. She can't afford to be out there marching. She can't afford to, right? Because she is bearing the weight of the cost of racism.
Right.
She's carrying the brunt of it.
Right.
And so this work, the essence of this work, is really rooted in the lowest, the least of us, right? Those who are fighting to breathe. Yeah. Those who are fighting to breathe. And I don't know how I got all deep up in there. I can't even remember what the question was, but
okay. Yeah, I think I love that that's what it brought up for you, because it makes me wonder how you've been coaching. You were coaching before you were really talking more about this stuff, right? And so it kind of came for you. And I think that's kind of what happened to me too. And this workshop that you're doing sounds a little bit like a workshop that I once was told by a Black woman I was following on social media, and all the white women were up in her comments just losing their minds about the suggestions. And I said, I feel like I need to have a class just for white women to deal with this emotion that's coming up when they see the truth. And she said, please do that. So I've been talking about big emotions and our big emotional surges, and I used to call them triggers because it's an easy label. And when I started to have this workshop, another woman who has a lot more intelligence than I do about both clinical things like triggers, PTSD triggers, and racism, was trying to explain to me how this felt risky to her because I was not educated to handle like the race piece. I am maybe qualified to handle sort of the big emotions piece, but I was using the word triggers, which obviously she educated me on it being sort of like that. I was, watering down the meaning of that word when I just talked about big emotions, of being like accused of being racist, and women have big emotions. White women have big emotions. And so it kind of had a big Facebook fire, and I canceled the workshop. And this was a couple of years ago. And I'm so glad that happened, because it gave me a couple more years to just listen and learn personally before I let it. Like, I'm still not in a place where I want to offer the workshop that you're about to offer, because I don't feel qualified, but I didn't even know what I don't know. And now I do. Like, it took years to even understand how I'm not qualified to teach that workshop. So, but the way that personal work has affected my coaching is so real. Yeah. And, when people come in with that, super esoteric, like woo woo, I've got to find my life purpose. I'm like, well, people are being killed by the police. Do you think that's something you could be inspired to act on? It's changed everything about the way that I work with mostly white women, not all. It's changed the way I work with the Black women that I work with. Good. Like, it's, just me doing that work on myself has helped me be much more useful in a very real and practical way with my clients.
In this industry, I can't tell you how many white people I have looked at coaches and thought to myself, you do not deserve to be able to work with a Black person. And I remember saying that to myself back in 2016, when we were still going through this stuff right here, right? Different names, different faces, but the same stuff, right? And I remember thinking, looking around at some white coaches going, you do not deserve to work with Black clients. And then the question, the statement turned on me, and I thought, well, what qualifies me to work with Black clients? Because being Black is not enough.
Right.
And so I started studying, and I started digging, and I started dealing with my own issues around race, around having been so encompassed in the white world that I had picked up things that I was not even aware of.
Things that don't even belong to you.
Don't even belong to me.
Right.
And looking at how many ways by disconnecting from my community, I disconnected from myself. How many ways by turning away from my community, I had turned away from myself in the hopes that love is enough, right? For it to make racism go away between Black people and white, all of that, that love is enough, right? Love is not enough, obviously. Because if it was, I'm going to tell you, us Black people got enough love to cover the world. So if that was what it was going to take, we would have been abolished it by now, right? Because we've got enough love for me and you.
Right.
If we're a loving people. But love doesn't change legislation.
Nope.
People change legislation. People who don't even ascribe to love change legislation, right? Change laws, change systems, right? So I had to go through a process myself before I even felt qualified. And even now, it's an ongoing thing. I'm qualified to talk about what I know and what I'm qualified to talk about, right? However, I don't kid myself to think that I'm the most qualified. However, what I have, I give. What I know, I share. Right. And I can do it in a way that connects to people and allow them space and room to transform.
Right.
It's a gifting. It's that is supported by skill, right? And I've been very fortunate in this industry to be able to really connect to people in that way, but specifically to white women in that way, where they feel comfortable having the talk around racism and all of that with me, and be able to walk through that journey with me, no matter how ugly it gets. Like, Leah has walked through with me, and I'm gonna tell you, she's like, that girl's a trooper, because it hasn't been easy for her, but she peels back all of that, and I remember when we first started off on our journey together, she said, Queen, I'm not sure I want to do this, not with you watching, because I don't know if I'm going to hurt you. She said, I don't know what's going to come out. I don't know if I'm going to hurt you. And I said, out of being human, I said, whatever's in you is in me. Don't worry about it. Right? Because that's the one thing I think that we often miss in this conversation. And this is for all the elitists, all the superior people out there that might be watching this. One thing that I know for sure about any kind of expansion, if you're going up, you feel like you're elite and you're going up, we don't expand like this, up or out or down. We expand like this, right? It's like you throw a pebble into water and how it ripples out, circular,
Yes.
That's how we expand. So to whatever heights you can go, that's to whatever depths you can go.
Yeah.
Like, you go out in all sides. That's why I believe that I have the capacity to do this work. It's because when you expand in that way, what you come to recognize is there is just time and circumstances between me and the man that sits on death row.
Right.
That's
so
all.
damn true. Yep.
That's just time and circumstances. That's all. Right?
Yeah.
So to think that we are superior to anybody, and I don't care who you are, what color you are, but to think that you're superior to anybody because of some innate superiority, like that's one of the most foolish things that has ever been created.
Yeah.
Lie that has been perpetuated. Yeah. However, we have a lot of people in this country that believe it. They believe it to be true.
Yes.
They live by it, they walk by it, and they are really trying to hold on to it.
And in our world, this woo-woo life coaching world, we have it a lot about race, and we have it a lot about other things too. I mean, I can remember screaming at the TV when a Republican governor said, you know, offering our prayers to one of the many, many Black men killed by police in the streets. And that's screaming and thinking, like, enough with your prayers. Like, this is not helping. And then I turned right around and looked at Facebook, and somebody was like, send in love and light. And I thought, oh, that's my people's version of prayers.
Oh, yeah, that is. Love and light.
Yeah. And like, that's not helping. Like, if I'm going to be mad because there's a, you know, governor saying that, it just, like, I have to look at what's happening on this community. What ways are we? Obviously, we now know that's called spiritual bypassing. But like at the time, it just really haunted me. Like, wait, it's the same. Like what he's doing to dismiss this pain is the same thing I'm doing, just with less religious words.
Yeah. And that is a pet peeve of mine.
It should be.
That is a huge pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing around that spiritual bypassing is that we have done it well. It is the thing that has allowed for racism to be created and to survive. It's all based off of spiritual bypassing. You know, when me and Leah spoke, I believe we talked about the doctrine of discovery, you know, with the papacy putting out the doctrine of discovery, saying that all lands, anything that can be discovered belongs to the white Christian who discovers it, as long as there is not another white Christian already on it.
White Christian man.
Right, Christian man on it.
Because white women couldn't have it.
So if and that's where it started, right? Yeah. And that's where it started. And then the papacy said all non-Christians, non-white Christian males, well, it was not non-white Christians, they didn't have souls, right? Therefore, they couldn't be human. Therefore, it was up to the white Christian male to wipe them out.
Right.
And this is the thing. We're not sitting up here making this up. It can easily be found, right? It can easily be found.
Right.
But here in the US, and we're talking about tonight, at least we put on the title. I put on the title. It is white symbolism. And this, I think this really speaks to the white symbolism as well. Because the US, America, is the only place that can hold on, first of all, spin history in a way where they're never the bad guy, and hold on to their symbology, evil symbology, right? And call it holy. Like America is the only one who has been able to get away with having several Holocausts, several on this land, several Holocausts.
Yeah.
But can turn around and look at Germany and say, oh, look at what they did. We've had several, and yet nobody has said that America has crimes against humanity,
Mm-mm.
right? Nobody calls them crimes against humanity. America touts itself as the defender of freedom,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because
I
they've
keep
been
waiting.
able to cover all of their history and make their
Right.
history something different than what it is.
Right. Right
Right.
now. Like,
Yeah.
I keep waiting for people from other countries to say, should we go help the Black people in America? Because, like, we go to other places to defend people when they're treated this way. Why are we allowing that to happen here?
Because the white population in America controls the resources and the money to, and they also control the narrative.
Right.
Whoever controls the narrative,
Right.
we already know that all it takes is to say something over and over again. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be factual. You just keep repeating it until it becomes the truth, until it becomes your history.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Even
and
if
it's literally the history written that we're taught in schools.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was taught, I didn't see the Robert E. Lee statue and think, oh, that's a horrible racist person and that should be taken down. Because in my history books, they taught me he was this war guy and like he was maybe on the wrong side. But, like we got that straight. We don't have slavery anymore. So that's over. But he was like this, Yeah. And so now we're like on the news, on regular mainstream media, we're having this unearthing of real history and this reckoning that I knew already because 4 years ago, but so many people are like having to pause and say, wait, what? Like, what? Like, what are they saying on the news? Because finally the news is saying, well, these are really problematic. These are really a problem. Yeah. So many people didn't understand because we were all raised to, indoctrinated is like the most true possible word here.
Yeah. And who would think if they were looking at Germany and if they saw Hitler's statue everywhere in Germany, if they saw the flag, the swastika everywhere in Germany, that they go, oh yeah, they and the soldiers,
that was bad.
That was over. Yeah. Who would think? But here in America is the only place where you can take the enemy of America, right? Treasonous enemies who lost, and make them heroes.
Right.
And then not only make them heroes, but spin the story into a heritage story, a proud heritage story. Like only here.
Only here.
Here can you do that. And people actually go along with it and be like, oh yeah, it's heritage. It's about, our pride in our heritage. And it's about Southern pride. Girl, you know how many people died for so you could say Southern pride? No.
Yeah. I'm from Tennessee. And so when I looked at that map that they've been passing around about where all these monuments are, there was only one here in Minnesota that was on the map at least, and they took it down. You can't even see, if you look at the map, there are so many of those statues, you can't even like separate them and like point to them. It's so thick in the southern states. And it's not embarrassing to me anymore because this is why white supremacy continues to work. But I was 26 years old and in college as an adult, single mom, 2 kids, and I took my first history class. And I found out that everything I'd been taught in the public school system and in the military system, because I was an Air Force brat, every single thing I'd been taught about America was a lie, that it was whitewashed. And I was wrecked, even before it was in the context of like white supremacy and having to unpack it and dismantle it inside of myself and all the stuff that it's become. I was like, I had to call a friend and say, we need to have a beer and you need to explain to me how we go from what I was taught as a child to what I'm learning in this history class today. And I was 26 years old.
Yeah.
Shocking to
Yeah.
find out that I was, like they're really, this system is functioning beautifully because people are growing up having a false narrative about how we came to be here.
Yeah. A very false narrative, one that only white people can afford to have.
Right. Because
and,
I could totally live that and believe this story. This story was believable to me.
And I guess I would say it's not just white people can afford to have, because there is an economic side of this. So Black people to a certain degree, or any other minority to a certain degree, can't afford to have it to a certain point. They can't have it to the degree that white people have it, but there is an economic level to which you can get to and choose to not see, and to choose to have a white consciousness. There is and where they will allow you to have a white consciousness until, of course, it impedes upon their white consciousness, and
they're
then
gonna fix that.
Remind you that you Black. Be like, oh, hold on.
Yeah, right.
We didn't let you go a little too far.
Yes,
Let us remind you how this is set up. So yeah.
I have that reminds me of a client that I work with who, when I was first discovering this work and doing this work myself, she's one of the people that I went to and said, I don't know if I'm safe to be your coach. She's a Black woman. And I said, it makes me really sad to think about not working with you. You're one of my favorite clients. We've been working together for a while. And I said, but like, I have come to realize that I don't have nearly as much information as I need to do. And I haven't done enough of this work myself to like feel like I can trust myself with you. And I just want to talk about that. And she decided that she wanted to keep working with me. We've worked through some things together, but she's someone who I can really tell she's gone through a similar sort of reckoning that you have. Mm-hmm. And one day she was just talking to me about what looked like anxiety at work.
Right.
And I finally just said to her, I have to ask you a question that I don't know anything about. And if you say yes, then I don't know what we're going to do about it. But I know enough now to ask you this. I said, are you just saying there's a problem at work and that you are having anxiety because if you express how severe this problem has become, that you'll be perceived as an angry Black woman? And she said, yes. But like her everyday language wasn't that. It was not this conscious battle to not be an angry Black woman. It was inside of her every day, operating and looking like anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I at least learned enough to be able to say, I don't know if that's what's going on, but is that what's going on? And she was like, yeah. So I'm like sending her these podcasts I'm listening to, and I'm recommending books, and she's talking to other people in her world who have done more of this work and is picking up pieces for herself, and her life is changing and my life is changing, but for me, that moment of like, I didn't know if she knew enough to see how dangerous I could be.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do see that as a problem. I see that as a problem in the coaching world. Mm-hmm. When white coaches have a lot of Black clients, and I don't necessarily think that white coaches shouldn't coach Black clients or anything like that. But what I do see is that when they don't understand the Black trauma,
right,
then they will actually feed into it versus exposing and helping heal it.
Can you tell me more about that? Like what kind of scenario can you imagine? Just so people listening can understand.
Right. White is right. That's part of the Black trauma. White is right. Right.
Oh, right.
So, sometimes I call it the white Jesus syndrome. Yeah. White is right, where they will worship what you say and worship and take it as right, and take it onto themselves of trying to become that, trying to be that. And if you don't have the sensory acuity to pick up on that, then you don't even know how to address it. Another thing that I really don't appreciate is how depression is talked about around the Black experience. Now, for all of y'all clinical people out there, just hear me out. I'm not claiming to be an expert or nothing like that. And I know y'all done been doing it for a long time, but I'm just saying this. When have Black people not been depressed? Like that's
Right.
that what you talking about is a white experience, that all of a sudden all this depression start happening because whatever. But our people came over here on ships, laying in their own feces and urine and throw up to come on this land and be shackled. What do you think they were feeling?
Right.
What do you think have been going on all of this time? You think depression just now starting to show up in our community?
No.
Right? Do you really think we were back there dancing and laughing because we were happy enslaved people?
Like it's been there so long, y'all don't even have a name for it. So now it's like, oh, that person's depressed, and you see all this resistance.
We got a name for it, and we know it's been there, but we also have our own medicine.
Right.
We are a resilient people.
Yes.
So when you start talking about depression the way that I hear it talked about today, I'm like, hold up. Like that's a slap in the face for the Black community, because do you know how long we've had to live and bear up under these kind of circumstances and situations, and we still show up at work?
Right.
We still raise families. We still keep it moving. Yeah. And we've done it without your opioids, without all of your antidepressants and all of that stuff. We did it by, hey, call so-and-so and tell them to come over here. We can ready to put some food on the grill. Turn on some music. Call the neighbors over. Right. Hey, we about to play some spades. Y'all come on over and hey, we going to church. We got a wake at the church. We gonna be at the church praying all night, or we're having a gospel service. Come on down. We having a gospel service, right? We have our own medicine over all this time while we were being ignored and neglected, and now all of a sudden, the way mental health is talked about is as if we all of a sudden lost our mental health. Hello. Right. We've never gotten to the point to where we got out of trauma. Right. We ain't lose nothing. We've been trying to gain back all of this time.
Well, I always think about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs we all learned about in high school. And the base is fucking shelter and food and stuff that so many people are struggling with and have struggled with for generations because of the way that you came here, were brought here. We're like, when you said depressed, all I could think of is like, if you push a button, we call that, we depress it. And like having a white person's finger on you, depressing you, like that feels.
And it's like that, to say that, you know, Black people are depressed or do you know that was way back then. Like that was way back then. Yeah. With trauma, we have been living in a perpetual state of trauma. Right. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of Black people that will watch this and go, I don't live in trauma or what have you. Honey, science. Science tells us, the studies tell us that it is trauma is handed down, passed down. When your mother, from womb to womb, the child goes through trauma with the mother. Yeah. Right? So from womb to womb, it has been getting handed down. We do things today in our community that it can be attributed to the enslaved experience that we don't even question. We just know we all do it. We just all think it's a Black thing, as we say, oh, that's a, you know, we can talk about certain things and somebody live on a whole different side of the country never went to school together, no, but can say one thing and resonate with it and go, yeah, so did my mom, or yeah, we did that too. Oh yeah, that's the way it was for us too. Right? Certain things that have just been passed down that we've never thought to question, where did that come from? Why is that so? Why is that particular fear there, or why is that particular way of holding ourselves, or holding a distance, or giving the talk, or like, where did all of that come from? Right? And why does it continuously being held, passed down from generation to generation? So there's so many legs to this because of a trauma left unattended to. There hasn't been a time when enough time, space, and support has been given for a healing to happen.
Right.
We're still fighting for people to even acknowledge that a trauma transpired, right? Because, you know, I remember saying in 2016, my lighting is driving me crazy. It keeps going up and down. Do you see anything? I'm about to.
I can see that it's shifting, but I don't know why.
I don't know what it's doing. But I was about to be like, hold on just a second. Let me go get put it right there. But I remember back in 2016, because 2016 was a pivotal year for me. I always talk about it because it just opened my eyes to so much, but most of all to myself.
Right.
So one of the things that I'd say back then, with all the bickering back and forth of racism is over and all that stuff, especially from white people, I was like, man, something amazing has happened and we've all missed it. Like something so amazing, so grand, that it's crazy that we all missed it. But there has been a rapture and we all got left behind, because I know a lot of Black people who have experienced racism, or their parents have experienced racism, or their parents' parents. They have people in their lineage that say that they were enslaved. But I don't know one damn white person with a mama, a grandmama, a great-great-grandmama who was ever racist, who ever owned a slave, or who didn't just love Jesus and pray for all people and take Black people to Sunday school. Like, I don't know a white person without. So I'm like, well, where are all the white people who actually own people? Where are all the white people who were at the lynchings? There has obviously been a rapture, and we all missed it, because there's this whole group of white people who don't exist anymore. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows their name. Nobody was related to them. Right? They're all gone. So there has been a rapture. So for y'all who waiting on Jesus, I think he done came.
Yeah.
And he took them with him.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I, growing up in the Air Force was kind of weird. I moved so many times. And even though I settled in Tennessee, I left there, I being attracted to women. And so there's that whole lesbian component that I've learned some other things, not being a Christian, sort of, I've had some different information that filtered into my life. Right. So it's trying to change my thinking, but I can name the family members that I have on at least one side. I'm not going to call out the family lineage here, but I could tell you who the family members are in my generation who are racist as hell, who I am not able to be friends with on Facebook because their posts are so abhorrent that I can't even be associated with that. I have had family members. I had one that I unfriended years ago because she was like, "You have no right to be married." I was like, how is this happening? I'm your cousin, and so I have started to trace my family tree, And I don't know where I'll find if people owned people at some point. I so far have not. And we, we're a pretty poor group. I was first generation to get a bachelor's degree. I don't have land. We don't have inheritances in my family, that kind of stuff. But I don't know if I'll get to a point where I'll see that we had someone who owned people and lost it all. You know what I mean? Maybe that happened.
Well, let me say this.
Yeah.
You got an inheritance. It's called being white.
Right. Right.
And that and a lot came with that, right?
So much.
Even the poorest white person, because again, that storyline that some white people will say, well, we grew up real poor and we know what it was like, and make it seem like that is equivalent to being Black.
Right.
It's oh, so you mad because somebody didn't use their whiteness to be better off than what, right. We started so far behind. We started 400 years behind you, and you mad because in that 4 years, they didn't sow that seed of whiteness to be up there with the rest of the white people, and you got left back here because we caught up with you a little bit.
Right.
But that white skin alone is an inheritance in this country, right?
It
in
is.
This world, really. It's really, in this world, but we're talking about in this country. But yeah. Yeah.
I have, the trick that I learned, and I don't know where, but the trick that I always learned when I would hear people, especially poor people, but maybe people who are in some other oppressed group, Jewish people or gay people, lots of gay people have a big chip on their shoulder about how because they've been mistreated also. Mm-hmm. And I always just hear in my head this funny little thing to myself and to other people where I hear, all that is so hard. Imagine if you'd been Black too. Because
you know what gets me?
Yeah.
I don't understand how, what really confuses me.
Yeah.
Is white gay people.
Oh, we're some of the worst.
Because I'm if you gay.
Right.
If you gay.
If you're oppressed in this culture, why wouldn't you get behind everyone else who's oppressed? You know what it is? Because so here's the thing. And I think it goes, I see sometimes other oppressed cultures not support gay people. And that's hard too, because I'm if you're hating the police for this, if you're hating this, capitalism for this, if you're hating all these things that are holding you down, if you hate racists, if you hate rebel flags, because of the way that they also hate you, why wouldn't you put everything you have behind freeing the least, powerful person in our society? Yeah. I don't understand why the groups haven't united. Because if we did, we'd be more powerful.
The interesting thing is, well, I don't know, because the interesting thing is about that is across the board, regardless of what the status is of your oppression, as far as what subcategory of oppression you're in, is that for those who are not oppressed, first of all, I had to stop right there because there's a whole group that think they're not oppressed. They have drank the Kool-Aid,
Right.
Drink the Kool-Aid. And they're the main ones that's out there fighting to save the statues and monuments and the flags and all that, because they think that it's free. It's for them. They think they're free. They think they're not oppressed, right? When they don't even realize that if they just look at the data, that they are lower class.
Right.
They're nowhere near the people on behalf of whom they're fighting for, right? They're nowhere near that power structure.
No.
They are, and if it came down to it, that power structure would roll right on over them with a bulldozer and move them on the way.
Don't you think? I mean, I think that is by design, right? Because if all the people who are actually oppressed by white supremacy or capitalism, if they were all aware how oppressed they were, it would be defeated. If like only the 1% was trying to hold this together,
right.
it wouldn't work.
Well, that's
So
why
we have
it's in the systems.
Yeah.
To
It
make
has to
sure
be.
that it keeps going. Yeah.
Right.
It's in the systems. And then it's in this system as well. Right.
Right.
That's why the education system is utilized to keep this system in check.
Right.
Right. The marketing is utilized to keep this system in check.
Right.
Everything that we see, those monuments are utilized to keep this system in check. Why do you think they put those monuments up all over the place?
Well,
It was to remind some people. That's
right.
Symbolism.
The timing.
They're speaking to us with the
right.
monuments.
Right. Because if you're an oppressed person and you see a statue of Robert E. Lee, like that is a constant reminder that nobody sees what's happening to you and nobody cares what's happening to you, and you maybe even are making it up, even though you know you're not.
You know what it say to me? It don't even say none of that to me. What it say to me is they were both on the same side. That's what it say to me. It say to me that was all smoke and mirrors, because we're dealing with one system. That's two sides of the same coin. And so I'm not all that offended by them, because they tell me who they are, right? That they all worked at, because do you think that Germany would be walking hand in hand with Hitler?
Right.
They were not opposing sides.
No.
Not on behalf of Black people. Now, the Black people who were fighting for their life, right?
Right.
You know, Black people were fighting for their life. But this was the same. There's two sides of the same coin. That's the way the system is set up, to include the political system. It's two sides of one coin. Right. And we just jump back and forth on whichever side we think is going to get their meat off of our neck at least a little bit, where we can almost breathe. Like that's what Black people do. It's like, well, like, who can we breathe at least a little bit with, enough to stay alive? But it's all the same. Right. And that's why you can have statues of what's supposed to be an enemy, a fallen enemy, but you memorialize them, you name things after them, and they're everywhere. Right? They're everywhere because it's the same. They're the same. They were brothers. They were in it together. Right. Right. They were in it together. That was like a family spat that we saw with the war. That's a family spat. It's interesting too, because like I live in Minneapolis. You mentioned you didn't even know where I live. So I'm from the South, but I live in Minneapolis. And like, if this was just the North versus the South, which is the way it's written, then we wouldn't have any racism up here. And this is one of the most toxic places for people of color to live in America, Minneapolis. Yeah. And it's no surprise to me that that's at the heart of the uprising. And I moved here and lived here for 3 whole years as a lesbian woman, thinking this was the best place ever. And 4 years ago, I was like, oh my God, because I'm white. Because I didn't know. I had no idea. I just knew I could walk down the street with my person and hold hands and nobody cared. So I thought this was like so amazing, because they were looking at you like, girl, we got the Black people to worry about. Don't y'all safe for now. We're busy oppressing Black people here. You're fine. Be like, y'all safe for now, but once we get them under, coming after you. And that's the thing about this. That I was starting to say when I got stuck on the people that think they're not oppressed, but they oppressed. Right. Is that, you know, for those who don't feel like they are oppressed, it is foolish to see a storm coming and think that it will stop before it gets to you. That's foolish. It is. To see a tornado coming and think that it will stop before it gets to you. If that can be done to one man, it can be done to all men, period. Right? If it could be done to one, it could be done to all. So
I keep saying that. It feels super clear to me. I don't understand why people don't understand. It's very,
I
I feel
understand why people
super,
don't understand.
it just feels really,
Yeah.
so it's so plainly visible to me because of the way we treat
Yeah.
people with disabilities, the way we treat poor people, the way we treat people of color, the way we treat immigrants. Like, we treat so many people so badly that I just feel really, yeah, it really does feel, it makes it feel hopeless if I was in a position to be hopeless. When people can just like see so many things go wrong and think they're still going to be fine.
Well, it's called, in the coaching world, we like to talk about things such as called limiting beliefs, which is interesting to me because I'm like, the nature of a belief is limiting. Come on. Like,
come on.
Like, that's the nature of it. So whenever I help you get out of a limiting belief into another belief, now you're limited by that one. Like, and you utilize them to keep you moving forward. That's the nature of it. You grab a belief that's going to fit you the best to get you to the next stage. And when you get there and it no longer serves you, you release it and grab another one that'll pull you to the next. So anyway, but this is very much like that. It's I don't think people give enough respect or reverence to our ability to hypnotize ourselves. I don't think I don't think we give, like, we really think that we all woke. Like, I without a shadow of a doubt, I know that I didn't hypnotize myself around some things, right? And then something's gonna happen to wake me up, and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I'll expand a little bit and hypnotize myself again. And then something will happen to wake me up. And like, it's a constant ongoing thing, right? But the sad thing, or the hard thing, is when a person does not even recognize that that's possible.
Right.
Now that's the hard cookie to crack, or hard nut to crack. Is the person that doesn't even realize that that's possible, and they think they're just aware and woke and look, I gotta say, and they third eye open. Like, I'm like the third eye people. And I'm not making fun at them. I promise you I'm not. But what I'm saying is this: if you that convinced that your third eye is open, therefore you see everything, then you one of the most dangerous people there are, because you have failed to realize just how powerful this thing is, and how
the links that it will go to right. How far your brain will go to keep you comfortable.
Yes.
And if your third eye is open and you still can't see racism, you have a problem.
I know, you got three eyes and you can't see. Something wrong. If you got three eyes and you can't see, something wrong.
Yes.
Something
if
wrong.
You have extra abilities and you still can't see racism. You have a problem.
One of them eyes or something.
Right.
Put a patch on.
Right. So we talked about like the whole idea here for our loosely held topic for the night was this, white symbology. And the statues are super, like I said, that's super happening right now. I'm excited to see them all come down. I'm laughing every time they take one down and under the cover of night, like, please don't take our statue down. We'll take it down. Like, where are they putting it?
In somebody's basement.
Somebody's basement. Like, I'm like, hey, I watched The Watchmen and I know what's going down here. Y'all are saving it for a rainy day. I already saw that show. And so, but what I'm always doing is sort of looking at this like big picture thing that's happening, and then flipping it and saying, how do I look at this in my own life? How do people watching now or later look at this in their own lives? And what comes to mind for me, especially in the coaching world, is the way that we appropriate lots of cultures. And, we use our malas, and we have our, we do all of these things that belong to other people. in a quest to find some comfort within ourselves. And so as I started doing this work, one of the things I realized is I just had this beautiful photo shoot, and I had a mala that I used when I used to wear to gatherings, and it was in my photo shoot. And like a third of my pictures now I can't use because I'm not going to use this culturally appropriated symbol. Even though those beads meant a lot to me, and I've since restrung them to make it just a necklace because I can wear a damn necklace as a white woman. I just don't really need to be wearing a mala. And I'm not saying that's not true for someone else who's white, but I had no tie to that culture. So it was ridiculous that I was clinging to that symbol. What is, for you, when you think about white women and the symbols that we use in a personal way, not the state capital, Robert E. Lee, what do you see that makes you feel suspicious? What makes you uncomfortable? What do you see us doing that you just raise an eyebrow at, that you wish we would see?
Language, because I'm a language person.
Okay.
Language for sure. Like the way that white women speak, and not all white women, but a lot of them. Mm-hmm. Like if you don't speak that way when you're around your white friends, why do you start speaking that way when you're around me? Trying to use my words
with you. Yes.
So you want to say sis, and you want to say girl, and hey girl, and yes sister, and like something. And I'm gonna tell you the truth, some words just don't sound right.
Right.
And so like when you talk about cultural appropriation, and you were talking about the beads. Well, first, let me ask you, why do you feel that you should not have done the beads? Like, what is it about?
Well, so I went to a workshop at a yoga studio by a white woman who had all these materials, and she had been to, she studied in India. And one of the things that she brought back was this idea, the 108 beads and having a spacer every now and then. It's clearly linked to the way that what's the thing Catholics use? Rosary. It's like that kind of sentiment. It's used for prayer. So I made it blindly years ago. I loved it, the weight of it. I'm very ritual based. So like if I put it on every time I had a gathering, like my brain kind of goes, oh, we're doing the thing. And so, but it had like one bead on it that has a very special meaning. Like there's a reason that malas are strung the way that they are. And none of that is my culture. It's not my faith system. I haven't studied it. I just went to a workshop and this white woman was like, you just do this. Here's some materials. So the idea that I'm walking around in the world with the equivalent of a rosary as a non-Catholic woman, right? That's what this was for me. It just felt false. It felt like I was using somebody else's symbols to make myself appear like a Zen person, a calm person, someone that woo-woo people might want to talk to. It was part of my professional image, and it was not mine. So I just get to restring the damn necklace and use it and still wear it, but as a necklace and not a mala. Right. It just has this is something that really means something to other people, to a culture that isn't mine. And so it felt inauthentic, or it felt appropriative, especially in my headshots and my public, when I go and do my stuff as a group, as a coach. Like I'm making an image there, and I'm intentionally using somebody else's culture to perpetuate this image of a person you might want to hire. It felt not cool.
Yeah. I'll end with this. Thanks for sharing that. That's I get that. My issue with that kind of appropriation, especially any kind of appropriation of the Black culture or any culture, is that things come about and are born out of something. They're born out of an experience. Those things are created for a purpose, in purpose, right? And so whether it be clothing styles, whether it be food, whether it be, like when you talk about soul food, that came about because of the lack of things, right?
Right.
The lack of,
Right.
and the having to put things together to taste good because of the little that you had to, right?
Right.
The clothing styles come out of having to be creative with what is available because of that which is kept from, all of that. Music of the heart of struggle and sorrow and experience. So when you're dealing with things from other people's culture, those things were paid for through experience,
Right.
through a suffering, through a common experience of a people, and these things were born out of that. Whether it was music, all kind of creative things were born out of that, whether it was poetry or music or style or swag or language, right? So when you take things that cost a great price and you pay nothing,
right,
not even homage, right? Not even pay respects or something to it, then it becomes problematic. Problematic. So that's my thing. So whenever I see white people show up in that way, where there's no respect for the cost that was paid for certain things, but you want to play with it and you want to be cool with it and you want to look cool, like you got some soul and all that kind of stuff. Honey, soul costs something.
Right.
So that's why they call it soul.
Right.
Because that's how deep it goes, right? It hits the soul. That's why they call it soul food, soul music.
She's got soul.
She's got soul, right?
Yes.
That costs something.
Right. It comes from suffering.
Right? And so when you want to talk about being spiritual and third eye open, that's just another way of saying soul, as far as I'm concerned. Like when you got soul, when you that grounded, when you go through like that, honey, that's enough to open up a third eye. Right? But it's an eye that connects you to humanity.
Right. Yes.
Suffering connects you to humanity. It connects you to the sacredness of life. Right? So I leave it right there. I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
I can't wait to see. You toss me something and we'll run with it. I appreciate you bouncing back and forth between this larger picture and this really personal picture, because I've been giving the people in my community hell for a while. And so I want to be able to sort of play with like it when we've joined the book club, right? And when we're learning
over to my program, forget the book club.
You know what I'm saying? Like we've done that. We've read these books. We all follow people online. Like we're doing that. We need to talk about what's next. Yes. And that's what I think I want to, kind of really dig into here. And I know that you talked about sort of some entry level stuff in the other two series, but I really want to spend these 4 days just talking about like, how do we unpack this? And
this is the thing. That's hard to talk about on something like lives.
I know.
That's why I created the program, because that needs to be in a container.
Oh, for sure.
People who really ready and want to do it, because that's some serious work. Like if it's going to stick and stay. Because it's got to be a transformative work. You got to get congruent, right? You got to take it in. You got to sit with the thing, take it in, right? And then become congruent with it.
Yes.
Right. And so that's why I'm so excited about this program.
I'm excited about it too. I think it's wonderful. Gosh. I just want to everybody do this.
I told Leah while I was like, as I was creating it, I was getting excited. She was like, "Oh my God, I was like, "Girl, this thing is fire." This thing is fire. And listen, for y'all white women who this is who it's for. So I keep hearing white women say, one, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. Yeah. But they also be blowing their life up. Like the next thing, they're like, they are alienating their family, their friends, like they bickering between them because they posting stuff and they family don't appreciate it. And then they being hurtful to Black people because they didn't know that was a racist thing they just posted, and now they feeling this way and that, like blowing their whole life up. They don't know what to say, when to say, misstepping every which way. And it is necessary to do your own work first. You can't do this work without I'm Black and I have to do my own work, right? So what do you think gonna happen as a white person? You got to do your own work. And I really how you relate to racism and how it relates to you, and get that stuff together, and then
go be useful
on to the next. But it's an ongoing. But once you have the process and you have the tools and you understand, then you can roll out safely where you ain't causing a whole bunch of cartilages and all that kind of stuff, offices, whatever, because you just blowing through stuff and saying stuff and just trying to be a part of something without knowing how to do it and all of that.
Yeah. So I'm so glad we're doing this. I appreciate you being open to my alternative agenda. I guess that's what happens when you partner with somebody called the Unruly Woman, right?
Right.
Things to be weird. So we're going to wrap for tonight, but I wanted to do two things. One is if people want information about the workshop, where do they get it?
I have a link that I will put in your, let me see I don't know if, I put a link in here, and I guess you can put a link in, because I don't think.
You don't see the. Okay. All right, got it. Yay. So is this information, the workshop is ready for them to learn about it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's ready for sign up, girl. We like 7 days away. It started on the 1st. It started on the 1st. So listen, y'all come on in. White woman, do not blow your life up. Just come on in. Let's get you together, and then we'll send you out as a safe white woman. We'll set you free as a safe white woman. So I'm trying to keep it. I'm keeping it down to 24 women, because this kind of work, you want to be able to everybody be real and open and all of that, and not get lost in the sauce. And if it ends up being more than 24, I'll just open up a second one. That's all. But yes, it's fire. Come on in.
I'm so excited. So we don't have our official topic for tomorrow, but is there anything that you'd like for us to be thinking about between now and then?
No, because I can't. Remember, we got to show up authentic. That's the thing. You got to show up authentic. And that's another thing, y'all. That's why this program is important, because if it's not in you, then you don't need to be messing with it. Right? So if I can't show up on here authentic without preparation and just give you what I got and it's valuable or what have you, then I don't need to be talking about that thing.
Right.
Whatever that thing is. And if I have to be quoting this and that and regurgitating things, no, it needs to be in your cellular body. It needs to be a part of you. You need to understand yourself around it and how it works through on you, all of that, right? In order to be able to be in conversations like this on the spot and not create havoc,
right?
Whether it be with your spouse or your in-laws or whoever. So yes,
I think it's a powerful approach, and I appreciate. I have so much mad respect for people who do racial justice work and anti-racism education. And I appreciate the approach that you're coming from, of a life coach who's a Black woman who's done her own work, because it's a different kind of experience than the academic one that someone might take if they're, going to take an anti-racism workshop. So there's a place, I think, for both of those things. But when you're dealing with these emotions, it's cool to have a place that you feel like you're ready to take that potential bullshit on.
Girl, it ain't nothing like having an anti-racist trained racist. Like, that ain't cool.
No, we are the worst. I always
That
want
ain't
to say they, but I always say we are the worst. Yeah. White women are really hostile and dangerous. And
and don't give them some training and give them a little information, and they haven't done their own spiritual work and their own inner work around this topic of racism. Man, you weaponize a woman to give her too much information, she will go out there cutting everybody up while saying racist stuff too.
Right. That's the thing, right? Yes. And, it's so funny because we do it. And then we do that with other things too. Like I've always said, I don't know if you know the book, The Four Agreements, but I have never seen a book since the Bible that's been weaponized like The Four Agreements. Every person who's read that book, who's like a narcissist, uses it like a bat. And I'm just like, not weapons.
Right.
Book. Like if you can't just teach it, like, so yeah, you gotta watch us. We're crafty. We don't even know the ways that we harm people. Yeah.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you. And post the link. Yeah, it's open enrollment right now. Yes. So, and again, it starts on the 1st, but there's some pre-work to do to prepare yourself. So sign it up now so that I can get that out to you.
Good.
So you can prepare. Because again, this is a sacred work. I'm joking and laughing and all that kind of stuff, but like, this is a sacred work. This is a holy work you do when you decide as a white woman that you're going to handle this stuff
right
within and then be the change without. Like, this is a holy work. So
I agree.
So it does take some prep, and I'll guide you through that as well before the course the program even starts, but it starts on the 1st.
Wonderful. We will see you here tomorrow night with a mystery topic that has not yet been revealed. Right. And we will do this some more.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Thanks y'all for listening.